Did you know millions of people have to watch over their backs for their freedoms? These millions of people belong to the group of Muslim followers. This occurs in the nation of the United States of America. So let me give you a little background. America stands for the American dream and freedom for all. How come millions of people aren't allowed that freedom if that's what America stands for? Well, let me tell you a little bit. Based on personal experiences, social media, and observations, I firsthand experienced many Muslims around the world fighting for their freedoms. They're fighting for their survival for equality. And I believe that I understand the problem it's caused and a way to end the social injustice. We will talk about the problems Muslims face and discover some solutions for solving the social injustice against Muslims in America. Let's discuss the problem on hand. Well, the problem started close to 20 years ago, and that was the attacks on 9/11. People believe that this attack was a result from a Muslim terrorist group called Al-Qaeda. Well, people started hating and attacking innocent Muslims for an act done by only one person or a small group of people. The media also berated Muslims across the world as if one person's actions was the definition of an entire population and the people that followed the religion of Islam. Well, according to an article by South Carolina Public Radio, there has been an 18% increase of hate crimes in the United States in the 1 year span of 2014-2015. And this is what, 14, 15 years after the attacks? And as you can see right here in the picture, when somebody describes a Caucasian or Catholic person doing a terrorist attack, they blame only that one self, that one person doing the attack. But if it's a Muslim terrorist, they're gonna blame the entire country, an entire representation of Muslims around the entire world. So 2014 and 2015, between these 2 years was the attack of San Bernardino which occurred. So San Bernardino is an attack delivered by a couple, and they went to a party, a holiday party, where the institution was for some disabilities, and they killed 14 people. And people believe that this attack was brought about by radical Muslims that influenced the couple. Well, radical Muslims are the ones responsible for the terrorist attacks. And these Muslims are only not even 0.1% of the entire population of Muslims, yet this is what people believe is the entire representation of the entire population of Muslims. Well, let me tell you, here are some ways to achieve the solution. People need to give a more positive light of what Muslims do. In media, you never see this. In media, Islam is always linked to negativity or attacks or hatred. And it's not right. Well, let me tell you one thing. When the attacks occurred, there was a neurologist, Faisal Qazi, and other Muslim professionals who lived in the area where the attacks occurred. They raised money for the families of San Bernardino shooting victims. And this has never hit the light of the news or any good things that Muslims do. They're never going to be publicized because they're not good for ratings and they're not going to draw attention to viewers. And the good Muslims actually do, and which is should other people see, is they actually give something called zakat. And according to the hadith in the Quran, zakat is 2.5% of your yearly wage that you give to charity for people in need. This is the third pillar of Islam, and it's actually required by every Muslim to do it. Yet this is never given to the media because they never want to see the good any Muslims do, only the bad. And if people were given more info about the good Muslims do, then their perspective towards Muslims will change. Most people's judgment and hatred for Muslims is based on what they read or see in the news, which is always going to be negative because nothing good ever comes about on the news for Muslims. Well, if there's one solution, if for one day the news talked only about the good about Islam and what Muslims do, then maybe the perspective of Muslims around the country would change. And the Muslims that are living in America won't have to live in such fear because people would actually be acknowledgeable to what they actually do in life. And if the solution is actually not implemented, then millions of Muslims will be afraid to leave their house to do daily tasks or be afraid and always have to look over their shoulders. And they'll always have fear of radical judgment. And the number of hate crimes will actually increase, and the problems will never be solved. And as you can see here, this came out in 2001, so this is right after the attacks of 9/11. Before the attacks, there were only 28 cases of hate crimes against Muslims and Islam. But after the attacks, 481 cases were brought about. And that's a big, significant increase. And if I feel like there's another attack or major attack, then the number is just going to keep on increasing. And that's not going to change unless people have background information on what Islam is and what Muslims do. And one way we can change that is why I actually need you. Is I need you to help me bring awareness towards the good that Islam is. If we sign a petition requiring that the news stations for one day play the good stories of Muslims and what Islam is, then maybe some people who hated Islam will have their thoughts change. But I can't do this alone. I need you, and I want everyone to gain knowledge of what Islam really is and not the tainted image given by media. In conclusion, social injustice of Muslims in America is such a big tragedy, and it must be stopped. If it doesn't stop, people's lives will be hurt. And social injustice is not just a county problem or a statewide problem. It's a national problem for Muslims because millions of people are living in fear and are scared for their freedoms and their livelihood. We must stand together for this fight, or else, of course, there's going to be a lot of bloodshed and a lot of tears happening because lives are going to be lost. And I want to ask you one last time to help me fight this cause. And I want us to spread the word of the innocence of Islam, and I want people to stop hurting one another and live in a society filled with peace. Thank you.